Tree of bridges. When driving or riding from home to school, how many bridges do you cross? You know the answer? You probably haven't noticed all the bridges over railroads, rivers, creeks, and highways on the route. That's the job of bridges, to make travel smooth. Human travel has greatly improved due to bridges. There was a time when to cross a river, people had to walk along its bank until they found a place where the river water was low enough to cross without being swept away by the current. A steep embankment or a small gorge had to be traveled around, unless you wanted to climb down it and back out on the other side. The earliest bridges were primitive. Logs falling across a stream are considered the earliest type of bridge. Following that was the practice of stringing large vines across the two areas needing to be bridged. Engineered arches originated in the Middle East approximately 4000 BC. They were also found 1,000 years later in Egypt, but the Romans applied the arch for bridges and aqueducts around 800 BC. They constructed many kinds of bridges, such as wooden and beam bridges. The Roman stone arch bridges withstood heavy use, the elements, and time to become the notable bridge of that era. Many of the stone arch bridges and aqueducts built by the Romans can still be seen in Europe. With the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe experienced an economic and social breakdown. Governments were small local bodies that could not support new development or even maintain existing structures very well. During the following 5 centuries, called the Dark Ages by historians, bridge engineering came to a halt. For other areas of the world continued to create new bridge forms during this time. There is written record but no archaeological findings of a suspension bridge built in India in the 7th century. Not long after that, suspension bridges made of iron chain were built in China. The simple clapper bridge led to the reemergence of bridge building in Europe, if not true bridge engineering. Though clapper bridges are considered by many to be a prehistoric style of bridge, the tar steps in Somerset, England, for example, date back to 1000 BC. Most of the clapper bridges in Europe were built during the Middle Ages. These bridges feature large flat slabs of stone placed across the top of stone piers. Clapper-style bridges were also built in China during the Middle Ages. European bridges with engineering principles in mind, however, did not really return until the construction of Pont d'Avignon in France. According to legend, the monk Benedict bridge, which featured more than 20 stone arches that together spanned nearly 3,000 feet. It was a remarkable bridge for 1187 AD, the year it was completed, and 4 of the arches remain today. The next notable bridge of the medieval period was the Old London Bridge, which was a massive stone bridge that replaced an older wooden bridge. Built by yet another religious man, Peter Colechurch, London Bridge was completed in 1209 AD. It featured 19 arches. This bridge lasted more than 600 years. It was built in 1823. It needed frequent repair that makes clear the logic behind the nursery rhyme, London Bridge is falling down. In the late 18th century, Frenchman Jean Pironnet, sometimes called the father of modern bridge building, changed that. Pironnet, the director of the first College of Engineering, was the first bridge builder to understand the structural importance of the arch. During the late 18th century, he designed bridges with flattened arches and slender piers that could still support considerable weight. His last bridge, the Pont de la Concorde in Paris, France, was not only graceful but also blocked just 35% of the water flow with its piers. The next big innovation in bridge engineering was the iron bridge. The first built was a cast iron arch bridge at Coalbrookdale, England. Completed in 1779, it still stands today. As the Industrial Revolution progressed, many of these iron bridges were built. Wooden bridges were also popular at this time, but the wooden truss bridge really took shape in the United States during the early 19th century, namely because the young country had the large timber needed as materials for these bridges. Truss designs used the structural strength inherent in triangles and later were made with iron. But with the spread of railroads carrying heavy grains, wooden and iron bridges did not always have the strength to support the weight. Additionally, many builders untrained in engineering were building bridges during the mid to late 1800s. The resulting large-scale bridge failure caused many deaths both in Europe and America. From these failures came both the use of stronger material, steel, and the acceptance of bridge building as a professional engineering endeavor. The remainder of the 19th century and the early 20th ushered in an era when many impressive and landmark bridges were constructed. One of the first of these was the Eads Bridge in St. Louis. Designed and built by James B. Eads, the bridge was an innovative construction that was key to bridging the east and west sides of the country and to helping secure St. Louis's position of importance. Eads, who had boats for the Union Army during the American Civil War, worked as a salvager of boats on the Mississippi River and knew the river better than most. On his knowledge of the Sandy River and the river's extreme floods, he decided the bridge piers had to reach the bedrock, which required digging depths of up to 135 feet below water level. To achieve this, Eads was the first bridge builder to use pneumatic caissons. Working in the compressed air caused caisson disease called the bends, which killed 14 of his workers. The system Eads developed to make this work environmentally safe was a great influence on compressed air safety laws created later. He was also groundbreaking in his choice of bridge design and materials. He chose an arch bridge made of steel, which was manufactured to his strict specifications. At the time, the arches were longer and higher than any arches built before that time. Plus, the bridge was built using cantilever construction, built from the ends toward the middle to prevent blocking river traffic during construction. Benton bridges, such as the Brooklyn Bridge and Golden Gate Bridge, cantilever bridges like the huge Firth of Forth in Scotland, and steel arch bridges such as the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia, also exemplify the bridges built during this period. The end of the 20th century witnessed the engineering envelope being pushed even further with projects like the 17.5-mile Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel, which used several bridge types. And another example is the Kashi Kaiko Bridge in Japan, which currently holds the record as the world's longest suspension bridge. Bridges are considered great even if they never really existed. The Ruckatucky Bridge, called the most famous bridge never built, was designed in the 1970s to cross over a proposed dam on the American River in California. The Ruckatucky's unique design called for a severely curved roadbed supported by cables anchored in nearby slopes. However, the vote to build the dam failed, so the bridge was never built. With origins in accidental or hastily constructed bridges, the modern bridge is more than a practical construction. It inspires beauty, creativity, and ingenuity, and safely connects us to the rest of the world.